My name's Fergus Warry-Fry. When I was about 5 or 6, they found out I was diagnosed with Crohn's.
Fergus was diagnosed very young, which probably makes his story fairly unique, because typically, you don't get diagnosed really until your sort of 20s, and it took us 4 years to be diagnosed. And when it finally came through, that at last gave us a direction to follow.
For us, it's been from very early on. The boys have really grown up in this environment of knowing that Ferg has extra needs. But he's not one to shout or demand attention. He's very good at just taking himself off, and he'll often lie down midway through a meal, and we all sort of look over and know that Ferg will pop back up when he's ready.
Because I used to be in hospital 24/7, and I just had loads and loads of pains because we didn't know what it was and we didn't know anything about it. But then I had the tube, a nasogastric tube, and it's horrible having it in because if you don't swallow, it gets stuck at the back of your throat and it's really painful.
When we have to go on to feeding with a tube, is that whenever he feeds, it's so painful that he can't eat. He then starts losing weight, which then sort of is a vicious cycle because he then can't eat to put weight back on again. And we try, if we can, try and time it through the holidays so that we can really control it and do it in a way with least disruption. But really, life goes on hold.
My name is Annabelle Redmayne and I am chair of the Northcote Lodge Parents Association. Northcote Lodge is a fantastic school. It is a prep school for boys based in Wandsworth. There are 220 boys approximately here. Well, I don't know Fergus particularly well, but I was introduced to him when we adopted Crohn's and Colitis UK as the charity. And I've been bowled over by him because he's so relentlessly cheerful. And I know that he goes through a lot of pain sometimes, and life isn't easy for him because he can't stuff his face when like the other boys can, but he seems such an adorable boy. I wouldn't say I knew him well, but what I know of him, he seems very sweet and very stoic and brave.
On one side, it's extremely hard. He obviously suffers from Crohn's and has all the side effects of that, but his attitude to it is so uplifting and to be honest, inspiring, that actually life is very good for Fergus. If you have a half-full glass, Fergus is pretty near the top, I would say.
We've just been so proud of him, and it's just been amazing watching him cope with it, and we just hope that throughout the rest of his life he can adopt the same attitude and just be positive and be the Ferg he's being.
Each year we try and adopt a charity democratically, and anybody can nominate a charity for each academic year, and of Crohn's and Colitis UK was nominated with Fergus as the sort of spur behind it. So on that basis, Crohn's and Colitis and James Pryor have come in and talked and brilliantly explained to the boys exactly what it's like, and got some of the boys dressed up in white boiler suits pretending to be sores in someone's bowels.
One of the really difficult things about Crohn's is that people don't know you have it, and people don't talk about it either. It's not something, I think all the Crohn's sufferers I know and have met, it's not something you advertise.
And it's just really annoying, but that's the problem with Crohn's. You always have to fight through these things.
And I think what hits us mainly is looking at the journey ahead and realising that we're only just starting. And then you hear stories of other people who are sufferers, and that has a big emotional impact. But we have a family of 4. We're a very strong unit, certainly currently, and we're determined to fight it and give it the best that we can. And we're very lucky in Fergus, who is so uplifting and so positive about it. We just, we can't possibly sort of get upset about it because he's so determined to keep going himself. And my wife and I, Fiona and I, we sat down and we said, well, what can we do? Thought, well, we need to have a sort of signature piece to get people's attention. We need something that we can talk about that will then get the conversation going at the front. So I get altitude sickness, so Everest was out, and I don't like climbing, it was too cold. And so we suddenly thought, why don't we row the Atlantic? And Fiona said, well, okay, you can row the Atlantic. I'll look after the family. Well, fundamentally, we're trying to break the record, which is just under 32 days. We are going in an 8-man boat. The route is Gran Canaria to Barbados.
Dad, tomorrow I'm saying a prayer in church, and it's about you.
We ask God to help people who make a sacrifice for others. We remember in particular my father, James Pryor, who is preparing to row across the Atlantic for Crohn's. We ask that he is safe on his challenge. We hope that he raises money, awareness and support for people who suffer each day with Crohn's and colitis.
It feels great. It means someone's really is supporting you. It's a nice feeling.
I genuinely think there's a much bigger Atlantic happening back at home, and this was very much part of our discussion when we set off, because Fiona's being left with 4 boys, one with Crohn's, to live life without me, and that is a massive challenge in her own right. Plus, I'm obviously out in the Atlantic. We can't talk to each other.
The boys will really find it hard not being able to see him and talk to him, and so I think my job is going to have to be to really keep them, upbeat and plotting James's progress as he goes across the Atlantic. And we made a pact that we'll look at the moon, so when the boys are feeling sad, they'll know that they can look at the moon, and James will do the same, and that's our way of keeping in touch. I think really our expectations are just to keep the show on the road. I want to keep on top of all the fundraising that we're doing and keeping all leads open, and following up trusts and any other PR that we can do for raising the profile of Crohn's. It's what our whole aim of the project is to raise money for medical research as well as raise the profile of Crohn's.
I'm very proud of you, Dad. I'm pretty scared that you might fall off the boat and not be able to fit in the cradle and get really seasick while you sleep. And I think he's going to do it, and he's going to do it hard.
I know James can do it. I think it really suits his personality. He's very focused and very determined, so it's a real hard slog, I imagine, and I think he'll be a brilliant person to have in a boat as well as 7 others, because he's very placid and he works really hard, and I think his character will get him through a pretty gruesome and grueling 6 weeks.
I think our message is that we know, because we're close to Crohn's, that this is a cause that really needs help. Sometime in your life you've got to be accountable, you've got to stand up and be counted, and this is our moment. We're going to stand up, we're going to do something different, and when we come back we're going to keep going, and we're going to get this money and raise it. We need everyone to help us. We just, if you buy into our story and can spare some money and want to help us, we can't do more. We want you to help us, and it's such an amazing cause, and if we can find a way through this, it would be amazing, and the more people who can join us would be brilliant, really brilliant.
And the more you raise, the more you save. The more people you save, the better life is